Welcome to Conversations Live. For more than a decade, we've brought you the best in books, entertainment, celebrity interviews, and current events. When the movers and shakers of the world have something to say to you, they say it to us first. Here's your host, Cyrus Webb.
Welcome back, everyone, to Conversations Live. I'm your host, Cyrus Webb. Glad you all could join us once again. But for our radio audience tuning in at WYAD 94.1 FM and WYADonline.com, we're glad that you all can be with us. Also, tuning in to our online affiliates around the world, especially our friends at iHeartRadio and Amazon Music. We're glad you all could be with us as well. We're excited to welcome to our broadcast today Faulu Mtume. He's someone who's been able to not only share the legacy of his father, James Mtume, but also just what it's been like for him to be able to see the example his father set, and now, of course, what he's been able to learn from that he's able to share with all of us. He's also getting ready to celebrate something very special this month. There's a street naming ceremony taking place in Philadelphia for his father. We're going to talk to him about that, but also what he wants you all to remember, not only about the importance of legacy, but also family as well. Father, thank you so much for the time. Really do appreciate it.
Cyrus, brother, thank you so much for having me, man. I couldn't imagine being anywhere else.
Look, I appreciate that, man.
The time is now.
Look, you know what, and you've been talking a lot about this, Fa, and I think, for when I was prepping for this segment, of course, we're going to talk about your father being honored during the street naming ceremony, which is a huge deal. But one thing that has not been lost on me, Fa, as you've been talking about your father's legacy since he passed, is just about that, the relationship, the relationship of a father and son. Talk to us about what that's been like for you, because yes, for the world we knew him as Mtume, and the music, but for you, he was. I even heard you say in an interview when he was home with your siblings. He was dad. So what has that been like for you to share the man behind the music?
Thank you. That's a really interesting question, because it's something that I challenge myself with very often since we've lost him. I want to start here. I'm gonna do a little kind of Quentin Tarantino approach. I might start in the middle and work my way back.
Sure.
But as you're saying it made me think of something. And when we lost him, the obvious pain that anyone would feel by losing a parent, when you're dealing with that, and then a person of note, of someone that people do know, not just from a community level, but people might know him just from a pedestrian level, from his music. I have to be very honest with something. The pain actually was a lot more tolerable. And follow me if you can, because so many other people cared for him. It's almost like it diluted it a bit, because it made me feel like, selfishly, yes, I lost my father, and I can sit in that. But we all lost a piece of him, and we all lost something. So it was kind of, we all shared in this loss. Because it didn't matter. It was from the people that might have grown up, my friends that grew up in the house with me, to people that just might have been affected by his words when he was on open line, to people that were affected by his music. We had such an outpouring of people that were just, people that we hadn't heard from in a while, people that we didn't know, but it was very consistent with the sentiment of what that loss was like for them.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think to that point then, Fa, I think, even as someone who's, maybe listening to you, and this is why I wanted to make sure we talked about this, because there are people out there that are dealing with loss right now. Yeah. And I think, and feeling that mixture of the appreciation of the time we had, but also, of course, what is left behind. You've been able to do that in an interesting dance, and not only doing it privately, but also doing it publicly. I remember reading the statement from the family after your father passed, and then thinking to myself, I can't even imagine what that's like for you to have to grieve publicly. But now, of course, you have this opportunity. We talk about celebration of life. Now, of course, with the street naming ceremony taking place May 12th, we actually have an opportunity to celebrate him and to have something lasting there. Talk to us about what this has been like for you to gear up for the street naming ceremony in Philadelphia.
It's very exciting. It's very intimidating a little bit. There's a mix of emotions. I mean, it's ineffable. It's not really many words to describe it, because it's such a high honor. And honestly, it's something that he probably wouldn't have accepted had he been alive. He'd have said, his humility wouldn't have allowed him for this to happen. But now he can't stop us. So it's that feeling of this recognition for this guy that was, who was just a guy from South Philadelphia, just another kid like so many of us, just born in the black community, that was able to go out and make a mark into the world. And so for us, for Councilman Kenyatta Johnson, South Philadelphia, to recognize this and want to bequeath the street at the celebratory naming of the street where he grew up. It's just, I mean, it's an honor beyond words, because it's just, what I hope that someone that might not have known his name, or might have only known a name from, say, let's be real, from Juicy Fruit, might have an opportunity when they look up and see it to go do a little bit of research. And when they find out all the things that he accomplished, I mean, my father was truly a Renaissance man. He was a modern day Renaissance man. Because if you want to talk about everything from creativity to being an intellectual to his political motivations, his social awareness and activism, it's something in there for all of us. I was just very fortunate that this hero was actually my man, my father. He was right next to me, and I was right next to him.
Right. You talked about dealing with the grief and loss afterwards. I want to talk to you about something else as of now, though, Fob, and that is coming into one's own. I think it's a daily process for all of us, but especially for someone who shares such a well-known name, right, as Mtume. I mean, it has to be something that is, ever present. Talk to us about what that has been like for you too. Because it seems like one of the things, and I went back and listened to the last interview I did with your father, which was in 2017, that one of the things that came up, of course, was him being comfortable with himself and his own sound. I want to talk about what that's been like for you to embrace your own sound and your own voice and your own name.
Well, another great question as well. I mean, the good thing was, and as you said, you spoke to my father, so you understood what kind of character and what kind of man he was. He had prepared us for his absence from day one, whether it was small things when we were children, just kind of, the small drops like, I'm not always going to be here. And, you don't hold on to them, but they start to make sense as we got later on down the line. So there was always this sense of, that he was always very real. We know that this is finite. We know that he used to joke and say, your birth certificate is the only thing, it's basically your death certificate. You just don't know when it's up, but it's going to be up. So he was always very realistic of it. We just never, you just never know when it's going to happen. So for us, we were always, in a sense, prepared. You never want it, but it's going to happen. And so in that, and I think that's what gave him kind of that perspective on what he wanted to do while he was here, and why he did so many things at such a high level. I think because he knew that there was something that drove him in there. So being close with him, you recognize that. And I'm his son, and I have siblings. I have a brother and 3 sisters, and where you want to say you're in that shadow because that's what it is. He's that kind of guy. But he always gave us all a very strong sense of self as well. I mean, even from our names, us growing up with African names in a time when that necessarily wasn't the most popular thing in the 70s. But this was that ground where we were nurtured and developed out of. So we were always raised with that sense of pride in ourselves, and we were always very aware of what his accomplishments were outside. But again, our experience was with Baba in the house. So what happened in the outside world was one thing, but the real information, the real exchange, the real love, and all of those, that real man was inside that house. So we were very prepared in that sense. So, it's to answer your question further. I mean, finding the voice is just in recognizing what the rest of the work that needs to be done, because the work wasn't completed. He did what he needed to do, but there's, what he did, what he left for us, it's our obligation to make sure it's pushed forward, either be with the music and making sure that the music continues to grow and find its places with new ears, or make sure that it's there for the old ears, or just with his story, with his name, those kind of things, because they're all important. Those were all the things that made him.
Right, exactly. So again, you have coming up on May 12th, as I mentioned, a street naming ceremony there in Philadelphia. For yourself, though, I mean, we all have heard, Father, that everyone has a story. When do you think you'll be ready to share your story?
My story? Look, I'd share my story anytime. I don't know who wants to hear it.
Yeah.
But my story be ready. It's his story, though. We really want to focus on, because we're offshoots of it. So my story is just a continuation of the foundation he laid for us. So hopefully I'd be able to do something that honors what he laid out for us. My story is still continuing.
Yeah, love that. Well, Father, this has been great. Again, everyone, May 12th is a street naming ceremony there in Philadelphia. A great honor, of course, honoring the name and the man, James Mtume. We've been speaking with his son, Faulu Mtume, today, not only, of course, about his father's legacy, but also the lessons learned, and especially now, of course, as a man, but also as a father as well. Father, where can our audience go to kind of stay updated with everything that's going on?
Oh, absolutely. So our website is mtumemusic.com. You'd find information about my father, anything from the bios to the music. We have a YouTube channel that we just put up dedicated to him, so we're going to be flooding that with information. And you can find him online, on Instagram, James Mtume Live at Instagram. But again, thank you so much for acknowledging the street naming on May 12th in South Philadelphia. That'll be at, if you don't mind, at 1500 Wharton Street in South Philadelphia between 11 a.m. and 2 p.m. That's a Friday. I checked the weather so far. It's looking like it's going to be great. We have a lot of people coming out. We're hoping to just celebrate and inform and include everybody. It's a communal thing.
Exactly. All about community. Again, Father, thank you again.
Always.
Really appreciate it. And looking forward to our next conversation together, man.
Hey, Cyrus, I'm looking forward to it more. Thank you, man.
Thank you. And we thank your audience for tuning in to another great segment of Conversations Live. I want to thank our friends at Double Exposure Media Relations for setting this up for us, and thank all of you for tuning in to another great segment of Conversations Live. Until next time, I'm your host, Cyrus Webb, saying as always, enjoy your day, enjoy your life, enjoy your world. Thank you all for choosing Conversations Live. Let's go make today amazing. Take care.